Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Greener Gut Solving the Root Problem Using Root Crops podcast. I am your host, Precious Melissa M. Braganza, and with my co host, Maiza Yu. I'm 17 years old, and my pronouns are she or her. My hobbies are playing chess and reading books. In this episode, we will be discussing the importance of root crops in addressing the issue of hunger and food insecurity. Hunger is a critical issue that affects millions of people worldwide. Join us as we explore how these crops can be utilized to create sustainable food system and alleviate food insecurity.
Hey everyone, I'm Maiza. I'm 17 years old and my pronouns are she, her. My hobbies include taking walks and reading. Along with Precious, I will be today's host. Today, we have a group of talented and enthusiastic 11th grade students who will be sharing their insights and opinions on various topics. Let's introduce our crew once again, starting with Lloyd Go.
Hello everyone, I'm Lloyd. I am 17 years old. I use he, him pronouns. My hobbies are mainly reading and playing the guitar, and my life motto is to always welcome the storm with a smile.
Hey all, I'm Cello. I'm 17. I use he, him, and I like to do art and design. I live by the words, be kind always.
Hi there, I'm Atisha. I use she, her pronouns. I'm 18 years old and I really like to sing. My motto in life is don't be afraid to take risks. Face it.
Hi everyone, I'm Amerudin and I use he or him as pronouns and I'm 16 years old. My hobby is playing basketball and my motto in life is there's no easy way to achieve your dream, so there's no need to rush.
We are really excited to have all of you here today and can't wait to dive into some interesting discussions.
Hi, we're excited to be here. But can you tell us why we're all gathered here for this podcast?
Yeah, and what inspired you to start this podcast in the first place?
And what do you hope to achieve with this podcast?
Also, how do you think this podcast can make a difference in our fight against world hunger?
We wanted to create a platform to discuss the urgent issue of world hunger and offer practical solutions as well. I truly believe that this podcast can make a difference by inspiring people to take action, no matter how small their contributions may be. By encouraging sustainable agricultural methods, we empower people to make use of their human freedom and build up a better future for both themselves and for their communities.
That is so inspiring. It's great to see how passionate you are about resolving this issue.
I totally agree. It's really refreshing to see young people like us taking initiative and using their voices to tackle important issues.
Yes, and I think it's really cool that we're also offering a practical solution that people can implement in their daily lives.
I agree, and I think it's important that we're also emphasizing the role of Christian morality in addressing this issue. It's not just about providing food, but about addressing the root causes and promoting values like compassion and justice.
Thank you so much everyone for your feedback. Now, let's proceed to discussing the background of this problem in each context.
For our discussion on hunger in world context, I would like to invite our speakers to share their insights and opinions on this topic. We would love to hear from you.
Okay, I would like to volunteer for this context. I have done some inquiry in which I found out that according to the World Food Program, 125 million people globally suffer from acute hunger. This is mainly caused by three factors: man-made conflicts, climate change, and lastly, economic downturns. Furthermore, the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic increased the number by 828 million. It is truly a very concerning number given that the number is most probably increasing up to this day.
It's heartbreaking to think that so many people are suffering from hunger.
And yes, it's not just the lack of food, but also the causes behind it that need to be addressed.
Thank you everyone for sharing your insights. Let's now shift to the Philippine context. Can anyone give us a general overview of the hunger situation within our country?
I would like to. Let's zoom in a bit on a national level. In 2018, an estimated 17.7 million Filipinos were struggling with hunger. And then during the pandemic, the hunger rate rocketed from 2018's 16.7% all the way to 30.7%. And this much we can attribute to poverty in the Philippines, making it difficult for people to access even their most basic of needs.
Well, that is very alarming. How is this issue being handled by the government and other institutions?
On what I've heard, there are a number of government initiatives to combat hunger, including the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, sometimes known as the 4Ps.
Also, I believe that non-governmental organizations and for-profit businesses like food banks and feeding programs offer support and assistance to communities struggling with hunger.
Thank you for sharing that, Shallow. Now, let's shift the topic to Mindanao, our last context. Can anyone provide me with some background information on the specific issues related to food hunger and insecurity in Mindanao? I would like to ask for a volunteer to share for his or her thoughts.
I would like to volunteer. So, focusing more on the Mindanao context, according to a study in January 2015, food insecurity in Mindanao had risen in 18 provinces. Additionally, the most recently conducted SWS survey results showed that the hunger levels in Mindanao increased from 24.2% in July 2020 to 37.5% in September 2020. This merely shows how difficult it is for people to find safe and sustainable food around them.
It breaks my heart when I hear that despite government efforts, hunger still exists in Mindanao.
Yeah, and there clearly needs to be a more permanent solution.
I think that given Mindanao's difficulties, it's really important to emphasize the seriousness of the situation.
Thank you all for sharing your knowledge and insights. Now, let's brainstorm. What could help alleviate the negative impacts of hunger? Remember, every idea is valuable and could potentially make a difference. Let's work together to find a creative and sustainable solutions.
I'd like to highlight the importance of applying the SDGs, especially goal number 2, zero hunger, and our primary theme of greenery. When we brainstorm for these ideas, we want to make sure that the solutions we develop are long lasting and capable of tackling the hunger problem. It's important to take into account not just the urgent requirements of individuals, but also the long term effects for the environment and the health of the planet as a whole. We're not just offering temporary answers, but we're also building a brighter future for the next generations.
I have an idea. I think one potential solution is urban gardening. This concept involves growing food in small spaces within urban areas such as balconies, rooftops, and even inside homes. This creates a sustainable source of food for those who live where access to fresh produce may be limited.
You have a good idea, Lloyd. How may urban gardening be promoted to those unfamiliar with it?
I think we can start by creating awareness campaigns through either social media, workshops, or community events. We can also collaborate with local governments and organizations to provide support to those who are interested in starting their own urban gardens.
Wow, that's a really smart strategy. How can we make sure that it's environmentally friendly and sustainable?
Okay, good question. We can encourage the implementation of sustainable and organic farming methods, such as composting, conserving water, and using natural fertilizers.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful idea, Lloyd. To summarize, urban gardening is a sustainable solution to address urban hunger, which can be achieved by promoting organic and sustainable farming practices while using native plants.
I think this is an excellent idea. It not only addresses the problem of hunger, but then it also encourages sustainable living and a better way of life in general.
That's correct. And it also allows people to open up spiritually.
Now that we've heard from Lloyd, are there any other ideas that we should consider?
Well, I have an idea. It's called community farming. This concept involves creating communal farms where people can come together to grow crops and produce food for the community. It's a way to not only provide a sustainable source of food, but also promote community building and social interaction.
Community farming or gardening is a successful and effective solution in addressing food insecurity, especially in developing countries. This approach provides fresh and healthy produce, promotes community ownership and responsibility, and offers various benefits such as reducing food costs, donating surplus food, creating jobs, and promoting economic development, and also providing opportunities for education and skill building.
That's also an excellent idea. Plus, it can aid in addressing unemployment and poverty. And the group reliance structure of it allows people to really connect and rely on one another as relational beings.
So, in summary, Athicia's idea of community farming involves the creation of communal farms to produce food for the community, promoting things like sustainability and community building by offering several benefits such as providing healthy food, reducing costs, donating surplus food, creating jobs, promoting economic development, and providing educational opportunities. Community farming has been successful in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries.
Oh, if if I may, I would like to draw attention to the fact that these suggested solutions they're consistent with moral teachings of Christianity on authentic human freedom and the human person. I think that these principles could also tie into our theme of greenery. By encouraging sustainable agricultural methods, we can contribute to future generations' access to food, as well as a healthier and a more sustainable earth.
To add to that, these solutions can promote social interactions and relationships, which are essential to human flourishing. By working together towards a common goal, individuals can build a stronger connection with each other for a healthier and more tightly knit community.
I agree with all of you. Our proposed solutions are in line with the lessons in Christian morality and the theme of greenery. We have discussed various ideas, including community farming and urban gardening. Now, let's discuss which solution will be the most feasible and effective in addressing the issue of hunger in our community.
Great! Brilliant! Let's start the discussion. Based on the ideas presented, we have several proposed solutions to address the issue of hunger in our community. Before choosing the best course of actions, it is really important to carefully weigh the advantages and the disadvantages of each solution. Let's start about about the first suggestion made. Please expand on the first idea you presented, Lloyd.
Thank you, Miza. I think that urban gardening can be a practical and efficient way of tackling hunger in our community. It provides several advantages, such as, firstly, it encourages people to be self-sufficient in terms of food production. By growing their own crops in their backyards or on their balconies, people can reduce their reliance on supermarkets and other external food sources. This is especially critical during emergencies like pandemics and natural disasters. Secondly, urban gardening helps promote healthy living by providing access to fresh and organic produce. This can lead to better health outcomes for individuals and reduce healthcare costs for the community.
While I see the potential benefits of urban gardening, I do have some concerns about its feasibility. One issue is that people may not have the necessary skills or knowledge to successfully grow their own food, which could lead to frustration and the lack of participation. It is also quite a significant commitment to start a garden.
There are also valid points to consider regarding urban gardening. As per a study conducted by the University of California, contaminated soil and high levels of pollution can be prevalent in some urban areas, which may adversely affect the quality and safety of the produce grown.
I think urban gardening has the potential to make a big impact, but it's really up to individual households to implement it and commit to it.
Now that the group has discussed the pros and cons of urban gardening as a way to address hunger in the community, from what I've heard, correct me if I'm wrong, the pros include self sufficiency, healthy living, and sustainability. Although we have a lot of pros, Athesha has expressed concerns about soil pollution.
That's right. So, I recommend community farming. It is a viable solution to address food insecurity and promote sustainable practices, while also supporting local businesses and addressing food waste. This approach offers benefits such as promoting community engagement and education, providing fresh and healthy produce to local residents, fostering community relationships, creating job opportunities, and connecting individuals with nature. It also encourages a sense of ownership and pride in the community's ability to grow its own food.
Alright, while I do understand that there are indeed potential benefits to community farming, there are also, of course, significant downsides to consider, like the limited availability of land in urban areas, which could make it difficult to implement community farming. In addition, issues around land ownership and access could make the whole affair contentious. Also, community farming requires significant resources and labor to maintain, which can be very challenging to sustain in the long run.
Let's summarize the pros and cons of urban gardening and community farming. Urban gardening offers accessibility, scalability, and low cost, but may be limited by lack of community engagement. But on the other hand, community farming provides community engagement, education, and local economic support, but requires significant resources and may not be feasible for all individuals or communities.
Both proposals each have their own advantages and disadvantages. That's why it's important to consider them in the context of our community's needs and resources. Urban gardening may be more practical for individuals with limited space or resources, while community farming may be better for larger initiatives. Both proposals can work, but we have to consider which one is best for this particular situation.
5 minutes later.
After hearing what Lloyd said, Maiza and I agree that urban gardening is the best solution to address food insecurity in our community. Urban gardening can provide fresh produce to individuals and families who lack access to it, while also promoting sustainable practices and reducing food waste. Moreover, it is easy to implement in a small scale, enabling individuals to grow their own food at home.
And it's also a great way to promote environmental education on a household level.
I also agree. After hearing what Lloyd said, I realized that urban gardening is the best solution to combat food hunger.
I also agree.
So, before we wrap up, on behalf of me and Precious, we would like to extend our thanks to everyone for joining us today and sharing their ideas and experiences. We've had a great discussion on addressing food insecurity in our community, and I hope that this has been a very informative and very insightful for our listeners. We also want to say thank you to our talented and enthusiastic grade 11 students.
Personally, I've really enjoyed this discussion and gained valuable insights from everyone's perspectives. While I initially preferred urban gardening, I am now more open to the idea of community farming as well.
Yeah, this podcast has been a wonderful learning experience. I think it's great that we've reached a consensus, and personally, I'm excited to see what we can achieve in the future.
Well, I also believe this podcast has emphasized the significance of community involvement and collaboration in addressing social issues like food insecurity. By coming together and sharing our ideas and experiences, we can find solutions that benefit everyone. I'm very thankful for being a part of this discussion.
Yes, and I've gained a lot of knowledge from this podcast, particularly about the advantages of urban gardening. It's crucial for us to not only address this issue, but also to promote sustainability and healthy eating habits. Once again, thank you guys for having me in this discussion.
Thank you to our guests for sharing their valuable insights on addressing the issue of food insecurity in our community. We also want to express our gratitudes to our listeners for tuning in. Thank you for watching and listening to our podcast. And we wish you all safety and good health. God bless. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.